Hi, Carm here, and welcome to episode 390. Hey, we're approaching another Remarkable Results Radio landmark. 10 episodes more, and we are hitting the 400th Remarkable Results Radio episode. That's remarkable, because when you listen, you'll always hear some awesome stories and great content like the one in just a few bits. We're going to talk about the power of data. Now here's a preview. You feel like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain with this data?
No, because the Wizard of Oz was a fake. The data is real.
Oh, my God. I would never have expected that answer. Okay.
and I'll tell you the truth. It's like the value of the data is based on the value of what we call the taxonomy in the industry of how you build it. And we think we've done a pretty good job.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hey, Carm Capriato here, and welcome. I'm with Al Haberstroh, a partner and chief strategy officer at MontAd Media, a data marketing company serving the automotive aftermarket. This episode is presented by Federal Mogul Motor Parts. Now, they are the reason you enjoy these great aftermarket interviews. When you need innovation and quality, you need Federal Mogul Motor Parts. With brands like Moog, Felpro, Wagner Brake, Anco, Champion, Seal Power, FP Diesel, and more. They're the parts techs trust. Find out more at fmmotorparts.com, and thank you for supporting these brands. Hey, are you listening to the new show called For the Record? This refreshingly brassy opinion podcast features your industry colleagues getting something off their chest. It's a platform to express their feelings on trending topics, and you may just learn something. Catch For the Record inside your podcast subscription feed. It's a short, friendly opine that serves up a personal rant just for you. I invite you to have your very own For the Record podcast. Just email me at carm@remarkableresults.biz. Again in December 2019, I'm giving away some podcast collector's swag, a coffee mug and a mouse pad. They'll be collector's items, trust me. All you have to do is listen for the December password in this episode. Enter to win at remarkableresults.biz/swag and listen during this episode for the special code. We picked 3 winners in November 2018, so get on board. Now for an exclusive treat, an interview with Al Haberstroh, recorded at Apex 2018. Al has developed numerous innovative revenue-driving solutions for marketers of all sizes. He was an early adopter of content and database marketing and was instrumental in the development of 2 new proprietary marketing tools for the aftermarket, ShopReach 360 and Audience ID. Now, this episode discusses the collection of data and what it could be used for our industry. It is very important nowadays to understand and track the behavior of customers and use that to gain and retain. Understanding the consumer's mindset and behavior can give you an advantage based on offering products and content that are relevant to their search criteria. I think you'll find this interesting. Find the links to Al's previous interviews, his bio, and the episode's talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E390. Enjoy this discussion with Al Haberstroh and be fascinated how data will play an important role in winning the mind of our future customers. Enjoy. Apex 2018. It's Carm, and a very warm welcome to Al Haberstroh, Chief Strategy Officer at MontAd Media, a data marketing company. And you were on last year.
I was.
You were here 1 year ago, almost to the day.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So thank you for being here. It was a great episode. We did it with Robert Cannon.
That's right.
And it was really so interesting about data and video. And today we're just going to talk about data. And it doesn't matter where you go, and I've actually had a great chance, Al, to talk to a few people here at some of the get-togethers in the evening about the power of data. And oh my God, I mean, everybody says if you have the data, there's a million things you can do with it, there's a lot that you can learn from it, and you can build strategies upon it. I think a very interesting and new frontier by being able to pull SEO data. Now, listen, I'm not at your pay grade level, so the minute I say something wrong, correct me, okay? Because you're closer to it than I am. But tell me about trends that are occurring in the industry based on the data that you're looking at.
Well, one of the more interesting things we're seeing is we've known for a while that across all different product categories, not just the aftermarket, across all different product and service categories, we're seeing consumers do more and more research prior to purchase. That's become a consistent. It's enabled by the ubiquitousness of mobile devices. They're researching largely because they can. And what happens is when you begin to, as a consumer, as consumers as a group, as they begin to do more research in most other things they buy or consider buying in their lives, it would be foolish for us as an industry to think that we're immune from that and that they are not also researching parts and service issues for vehicles. And that's where, our expertise comes in taking technology that allows us to understand what people are researching and looking for and capturing the data and then using it for marketing purposes or other purposes in the industry.
I love it. Marketing purposes. You were so kind to send me some data sheets that you have actually decided to mine. You're mining this data, and you're saying, because you've got clients that are in the aftermarket.
Oh, absolutely.
And they want to know, hey, what's going on? And what I just love that you said, research. Let me spin that and say, Google search.
Well, yeah. See, that's the difference. And this is where it's sometimes hard for people to understand the difference between search and research. Search, of course, is when you type something into the Google search engine and you get results, right? Research, it speaks to the content you consume online, no matter how you got there. So maybe you got there by Google search. Maybe you were reading an article somewhere that talked about vehicle safety issues, and that led you to research a particular issue with your vehicle. Or maybe you came at it from a different direction. You could have come at it from a retail site, for example. You could have gone to a retail site, taken a look at product, and then decided to research the quality of the product. It doesn't matter. The key is we can monitor content consumption, including video consumption. So someone goes to YouTube to research an issue. We can know that. And then the data partner that we use for this, it's a company called Clickagy, full transparency, out of Atlanta, Georgia. They've given us exclusive rights to the technology in the aftermarket, but they serve a wide variety of industries. And they came to our attention because my data analytics associate is really keeps his ear to the ground when it comes to new technologies, and he introduced this to us, and it's really interesting. When a consumer researches something, goes to a page, if they bounce off the page right away, we don't capture the device ID. They have to show intent. They have to show interest in the content. And I don't want to get too technical about this, but we put in relevancy factors. So in other words, if we're talking about a starting and charging issue, we would begin to build the audience. Perhaps, let's say it's a starter issue. So we begin looking at starters, but we would give every term related to starters a very high relevance, maybe a 90% relevance. So if the content on that page does not speak to issues with rotating electric or with starters, that page would not be a content page we'd monitor.
And do you find that out once you have the data in your hand, or is it never put in the bucket?
Well, it's never put in the bucket, actually. You see, what you can do with the tool is you can experiment with relevancy. So I could lower relevancy down to 50% if I wanted to, or raise it up to 90%. Because we're in marketing, and what we want is the narrowest and best possible audience for our clients, we tend to put relevancies pretty high. If the content on a page, if you're researching squeaking, squealing in your car, we might put serpentine belt we might put squeaking and squealing and a 90% relevance, and serpentine belt at a 75% relevance.
Oh, I get it. So while you're taking this data, you've got all these switches,
right,
and relevancy factors,
exactly,
and then you said analyze, and you get data back.
Yeah, and honestly, all of this is like how the sausage is made, so to speak, right?
Oh dear, you never want to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for often it may be too much information. Suffice it to say, we have one advantage in this space. That is that we have been auto aftermarket specialists for many, many years. As Carmwell knows, we engage and talk to the technician and repair shop community. We run the Know Your Parts site for the AASA that gets a lot of visitors, around 180,000 a month. We monitor this industry. We go to events. I sit in the audience of technician panels, and I listen to Carm's show. And
okay,
thank you, Carm.
But no, thank you, Al. So thank you for kind of setting that up. And I really want to try to take a little deeper dive now. I'm talking with Anthony Froline, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. What are the techs saying about your visit?
Every single time that I set up a training, I try to position the van inside the shop. You know, you're part of their house at that point. Whenever you set aside that time, you tell them that you're coming in, you're providing a lunch, and you're really bringing something of meat and value to the table. Once they get a taste of it, really, by the time you're done, they're asking, when can you come back?
When can you come back? Or, hey, what else you got in your bag of tricks?
Exactly.
So the greatest outcome of your visit to a professional shop
is just to really make a difference in their everyday procedures to maximize the premium end of the product that's being installed. But ultimately, for me being an ex-shop owner as well, is to maximize their profitability in installing the part right the first time and having a happy customer. I always say happy customer is like a happy wife. Happy wife, happy life. Same thing goes with the customer.
I've heard that before. So you take a Wagner OEX pad and you put it into the hands of a technician. What happens?
First off, they're floored with the cut design on the front end. They'd never seen a brake pad like this before. And then you start to break it down into why it's cut the way it is and how it's application or platform specific, how the backing plates are no longer painted, they're zinc coated, and that's for tolerance level, so that way you don't have buildup on the ears and fitting into the hardware. I mean, you get into all the little nuances that they've changed around with that brake pad on top of the performance end of it. I mean, it's phenomenal. And then once they physically try the brake pad either on a customer's car or their own vehicle, I've heard nothing but rave reviews about the brake pad.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. Hey, Carm here. In our December swag contest, the password is wisdom. Go to remarkableresults.biz/swag. Use the password wisdom and enter to win a collector's coffee mug and a mouse pad. The drawing will happen in the first week of January 2019. Al just basically laid up his credibility. This data just didn't come to you because you want to play with it. You use it to help clients drill down. So Al sent me some really great data charts and some information from July and August. What I saw that was so interesting here was a search of brake repair from July. And again, based on the filtering, at this high level, there were 204,000 unique
people searching
brake repair. Now, you could drill it down as far as a community, a city, a zip code, a region, a state.
Absolutely.
Get it. Okay. So I don't know what the pie was for this, but in August, it went up to 263,975.
Yeah, well, we saw a big spike, and this is interesting. We saw a big spike in demand across all parts categories in August, and we had no idea why. So we queried some of. It's interesting. We talked to some of our clients on the distribution side and found that August was a darn good month. Still don't know why. But we did see a spike in demand. Now, maybe some of your listeners experienced a little bit of increase in business in August compared to July or September. But I am not saying that is a definitive endorsement that my data is so great. I happen to think we did a pretty good job building these audiences, but it was interesting to get that kind of feedback.
Yeah, let me do this high-level thing again. As I said earlier, brake repair, 204,000, brake repair July, and then August. But when you took this entire group of brake, from car brands and service and symptoms and safety and truck,
right,
the difference between July and August, same filters, was 773,000 versus 1,000,003. And that's what Al just mentioned. We saw this big spike in the data, in the research that was done.
Yeah.
And so here's how I looked at it, Al. I says, oh my, look at that. Isn't it possible that we could learn that marketing to our customer for brake work in August? And again, maybe the trend next August may be less.
It may be.
But think about the final time of vacations of the year. And so if this proves my gut feeling as a shop owner that I really need to be sure that I'm really sharp in my SEO and say some of my Facebook stuff about brake safety on vacations, this kind of proves it out.
Well, it could. I think so. I would be, hesitant. Quite frankly, this process that we put together of monitoring these audiences is months old, not years old.
Right. Well, that's good.
Yeah. We began, I think July was the first month that we monitored. Then we saw a big spike in August, and then we saw it drop down again in September. We may have done June. I'd have to go back and check my records, but it was no earlier than June. It would have launched June at the earliest. We built out these audiences, having gained access to this technology. What's going to be interesting is to look at the data sort of year over year as we continue down this path and try to identify trends.
What are you going to do with the data? How are you going to be able to offer it up to your clients that are aftermarket people?
Well, we're using it now in a couple of different ways. We've used the data from our standpoint for a few B2B campaigns, so trying to find very, very niche target audiences of commercial audiences. So in one case, we did a campaign where we were trying to reach heavy-duty technicians interested in brake issues, right? So we were able to ascertain by their research behavior who these people are. We've got another campaign for heavy-duty wheel end, and we've got a campaign running now trying to reach the higher-level diagnosticians in our industry based on the kind of content they consume online. On the B2C side, we see value in some of the manufacturers finally reaching out and trying to touch consumers who are in market for their product categories. We've done ROI analysis that shows a very, very small conversion rate leads to very high profit, incremental profit. But from a standpoint of your listeners, the data may be valuable from a standpoint of market planning, of strategic planning, of understanding consumer behavior as it relates to certain parts categories. What do they research? What do they not research? I was just telling Carmen, a couple of other gentlemen a few moments ago before we entered the recording booth, that we have a check engine light audience. These are consumers who are researching why that light went on their dashboard. If you monitor that piece of data alone and you begin to see incremental increases in the amount of research aligned to that, you begin to realize that could be a very good place to focus on, to your point, Carm, with some of your social media, with some of your SEM, if you're doing AdWords to drive new business to your shop. We don't do AdWords, and AdWords can be very efficient and very effective marketing tools used correctly. So I encourage shops to look into it. It's good local.
More important than SEO?
No. Think about it this way. One of them you're paying for, and one of them you're not. So I just came from a meeting where a gentleman talked to me about the value of long-tail key terms. And now I'm going to get off the subject a little. So the reason that the Know Your Parts website is so successful and gets so much traffic is entirely based on SEO and what we call long-tail key terms. So when we first started the Know Your Parts site, I said to my team, understand that the only engines these people we were working with knew were search engines. They didn't understand this industry. So I said to them, a couple of things you have to understand. Our members, the association members, make parts. Do not optimize the content for parts. Optimize the content for problems the technician faces.
Right.
It's problem-solving content, and do not underestimate this audience. I believe the average ASE certified technician has the equivalent of a 2-year engineering degree. These are smart people. They're searching for very granular things. So optimize for those. Use those key terms. Don't optimize for brake replacement. Optimize for perhaps, the proper way to shim brakes on a Ford Taurus or something of that nature. Take a look at the content that we have from the members. Take a look at the long-tail key terms embedded in that content. Perhaps embed a few extras, some more, because we always edit the content, generally. That's how we reach that trade audience.
But because you're looking to get the professional to go to the Know Your Parts
Exactly.
site. And it's a great story of how you got granular so that the technician who is doing granular research. Let's talk about the consumer.
The consumer side is more difficult but more valuable. What does the consumer research? Do they research for brakes? No. They research for brakes for their vehicle. I own a 2007 Honda Civic. I'm looking for brakes for a 2007 Honda Civic. I'm not looking for brakes. If I want to know how my football team is doing, I'm from Detroit, I don't type football.
You type Lions.
How do Lions do? Lions score, Lions standings, Lions results, Lions trades.
How are they doing this year, by the way?
Mediocre.
Okay. Thank you. They will be playing Thanksgiving, right?
They always play Thanksgiving.
Right, just checking.
But so it's the same when consumers search for issues. So when I say long tail, if you're using SEM or SEO and what you optimize for is brake replacement, you've got a lot of competition. Think in terms of SEO as a competition for the traffic. The person who optimizes for Honda Civic brakes has to do a lot more work because there are lots of vehicle makes and models out there, right?
Yeah, but I look at tons of websites when I interview anyone, and I'm curious about, these great service providers in our industry. There's pages upon pages of vehicle makes in their websites so that the Google bots come and get them and bring it into their SEO. Oh, yeah. Very smart.
Yeah. Because when you think about it, that's the way we build the audience, is getting back to this audience building, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the segments for brakes is car brands, right? So, list the car brands, and then all the brake-related terms, right? Because people research brakes for their vehicle. Then we have a safety audience, and here's where it gets interesting, right? So these are all safety issues aligned to brakes and braking and stopping and those types of issues. So I try to tell clients, you don't want to push out the same ad to the brand audience or the price audience, the guy who's shopping price or the woman who's shopping price. You don't want to push out the same ads to them as a safety audience. A safety audience ought to get a safety ad. So they ought to get an ad that says your brakes stop the car 40 feet faster at 60 miles an hour or something like that. That's kind of wordy for a digital ad, but you need to address what your audience is looking for.
I just totally love it. I mean, I think we went, 10 minutes ago from, we have data. And I think you've made it crystal clear that you have this ability to take all this research that's being done figure out where some great commonalities in the research is, throw it into some buckets, total them all up and call it everybody who's saying anything about brakes. And ultimately, I guess you have to look at trends. What's the data mean? And do you know where it's coming from? Is it mobile? Is it desktop? Is it Apple? Is it Android? Can you segment customers based on where the data is coming from?
It can be parsed based on whether it's a phone, iOS, Android.
Does that matter today?
I don't think so. When we report back on an ad campaign, we understand results by device, right? Well, basically, we just parse it mobile or desktop. We don't slice it up too much. But what we're seeing is more and more, like everybody else, we're seeing more and more mobile usage. And we're seeing mobile really perform well for us.
So, Al, you're here because I'm fascinated with this information. Will ever someday, do you think, our industry at the service level could ever be able to tap into some data? Could you ever go out and say, listen, tell us what you want to know about your marketplace and we'll sell you some data? Do you ever envision that? Or you're just working way up here?
Well, Carm, from my standpoint, there are very good people in this space that offer marketing services to the shops on an individual level. That's not our business model. But the point is, some of those companies that do offer those services to the shops could avail themselves of our data and use it in their business.
Okay, so yeah, I get you. You're looking to offer it to the next level up, level up one or two. I get it.
Or for example, it could be used by a program group. We have the Alliance here today. If the Alliance were to say, I want access to your data and I'm going to use it to develop really focused marketing programs that benefit my first call or my certified service centers, we could do it. We could do it geographically. So if they sent us a list of all their certified service centers, we could deploy only the ads in the footprint of those service centers and only to people who have expressed, interest in the content. Here is the thing. 5 years ago, even if I had the data, that would not have been possible, because dynamic ad deployment was impossible. And by dynamic ad deployment, I mean if the guy in Peoria is called Joe's Service Center and the guy who's got the store in Chicago is called Phil's, we can deploy a Joe's ad in Peoria and a Phil's ad in Chicago, and it's just a matter of uploading the database into the DSP. It's automated these days. 5 years ago, it had to be done all manually, so it was impossible. Now you've got the data, and you've got automated processes you can use to get very granular in terms of ad deployment.
Wow. That's above my pay grade, what you just said.
Well,
and that's, you don't have to clarify it, but the fact of the matter is that there's some wild Star Warsian forces going on out there that can take anyone's spend and direct it, as you said, granularly.
The problem is, honestly, you know what the problem is, Carm? It's on the creative side. So if you, and this is where people get hung up, because, oh my God, it's so much work. If I'm dealing with a database of 2,000 shops, and they all have different names. Now, it's easy if they're all just auto value or bumper to bumper, right? But if they all have different names because they're independents, oh my gosh, you have to upload, you have to create somehow 2,000 different pieces of creative with logos that are all different shapes, right? You're not going to, if you could put the logo in one square in the ad, that's easy. If everybody had the same shape logo.
Got it.
So that's where it becomes difficult, and that's where a company like ours cut our teeth in this on the print side, because we would do custom marketing for the distributors. That's where we started in the business, working with distributors, and we would create flyer programs for all sorts of programs, flyer programs for the jobbers and the stores, their branded stores, with custom logos. So if you're, custom addresses, custom logos, all of that, we still do it. But on the digital side, it's possible to do. You marry a database with the creative, send it to the DSP, monitor that they do it right, and launch a campaign. I'm not saying we do that, Carm. I'm saying it's technically possible.
Got it. So you feel like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain with this data?
No, because the Wizard of Oz was a fake. The data is real.
Oh my God. I would never have expected that answer. Okay.
and I'll tell you the truth. It's like the value of the data is based on the value of what we call the taxonomy in the industry of how you build it. And we think we've done a pretty good job.
Got it. Is this going to be a disruptor for how we are going to market in the future?
It's funny you use that term, because I started using that term the first time this Apex, because what we bring to the market is so different than what's generally out there, what all these people on the floor are used to doing, and it is somewhat disruptive. I shared with you last time we were here about my entree sort of into when we started dealing with the manufacturers and we began to see the kind of branding programs they put together, and I won't go into detail on it, but the point is that whether you're a shop, a parts manufacturer, CARM, your company, your business, myself, my business, if you don't control your own brand, if somebody else controls your brand, you will eventually pay for that in one way or another. Now, I think a lot of the manufacturers kind of learned that the hard way and wound up with 365-day terms and other issues aligned. I won't go into all of that. It's a touchy subject, and maybe you'll edit that out, and that's okay. But the point is, a shop has to control its brand. And your brand is every interaction you have with that customer. You guys know that. It's the way your service advisor talks to the customer. It's the sign out in front. It's how clean your waiting room is. And it's your marketing materials. That's a reflection of your brand. Now, when you let someone else control that, you lose control of your brand, and you eventually lose
marketing
business.
to the customer base today is more scientific, is what I'm
absolutely.
really hearing you say, than ever before. So good SEO, good Google AdWords, a good quality brand, all the right stuff on your website.
Your social media, everything.
And again, I know maybe this data won't be available to our team, to our service professional, my core listener, but it's fascinating. And the reason that I wanted to have you in and to share this is I think you bring a very exciting and interesting perspective to our industry, to know that the data is there and to say, well, we know that people are collecting all kinds of data on us, no matter where we go, what we do, and our cell phones and our GPSs and all the data in the car. But what's fascinating is, where does it go? What are people doing with it? Al just described to you what he can do with the data that he gets and how granular that he could help big companies market. But to see these trends and say, you know what, I don't have enough information to know, but there was a bigger break month in August as far as research than it was in July, could have some very powerful consequence or opportunity or value for us in the future.
Well, I think it could. And again, your listeners need to understand that the data that we produce is national. And of course, there are going to be regional differences and regional trends. The key to it is, the more as an industry we can understand consumer behavior insofar as they research the service and parts issues aligned to maintaining and fixing their vehicles, the better we'll be at our jobs generally. This may not be revolutionary for your listeners, but it's a point of interest. And again, I'm toying with the idea. I haven't decided exactly what to do with it yet. As Carm knows, we've been sending out to our own database, our own email list, monthly reports on the data we're seeing. So we send it out in monthly reports, and we may begin, discussing trends. It may be a little too early for that. Because if I do an audience adjustment, it's going to affect the data.
You'll change your filters, you mean?
Oh, yeah. Okay. As I begin to, because as we
you're
begin
refining
to learn,
it.
Well, as we begin to learn more, we kind of refine it. But I may get to the point where I just post it on my website, so everybody can have access to it. I may get to that point. Haven't yet, but I need to do that.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm fascinated by this. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, Carm. Thanks for what you do.
Oh, hey, man. Al Haberstroh, partner and chief strategy officer at MontAd Media. I've known you for a lot of years, and you know me, audience. When I find something that I find so fascinating, I always go for the interview. And so I appreciate you being here and sharing something that we may just all be able to use someday in the future. But you gave us some great lessons.
Well, thank you, Carmen. I just hope it's got some interest value to your audience.
I know it's going to be. Thanks, Al.
All right. Thank you, Carmen.
Hey, thank you, Al Haberstroh, for outlining the power of data to our businesses and for explaining it well enough to best understand its power and potential. Your expertise is definitely an asset to our industry. The episode's key talking points can be found at remarkableresults.biz/E390. Hey, thanks for finding the time to listen and learn with the best context in the automotive aftermarket. I'm so glad you're investing in these long-form interviews. You know, the power of the spoken word brings you inspiration and ideas. Enjoy the day. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time,